Welcome to Chentex Multimedia live stream for the 17th of March. And it's a wet day there. And of course, I think they have been predicting some more rains. We will talk about that in a minute. But of course, today we have the very special show of the real estate update with Usha Chandra. And of course, we will be talking about all the market trends that's happening. And there's been lots of talks about the vaccine and the rollout of the vaccine and what's happening with that. There have been some problems around the world with the vaccine as well. And people are a bit worried about what, it might be. And of course, some people are opposing, some people like the idea, and what's happening in that scene. So we will look at all of those. But first of all, let's take a very quick look at what's happening with the weather. With that, let's welcome Dilraj.
Good morning everyone. Weather forecast for the rest of today is maximum 24 degree. Brisbane area is cloudy with very high chance of a rain. Winds east to southeasterly 15 to 20 km per hour, becoming light in the evening. Fire danger is low to moderate. Sun protection is recommended till 3:30 and UV index is predicted to reach 10, that is very high. Till tomorrow, stay safe and enjoy the rest of your day.
And thank you very much for that update, Dilraj. Well, right now, as we know that we will be joining with our Prime Minister and bringing to you all the news there. But before we do that, we'll take a look at what's making news today and looking at news in brief. With that, as we know, AstraZeneca vaccine has come under a lot of scrutiny. So let's see what's happening in that area. In this update, the AstraZeneca vaccine will continue to be rolled across Australia. And the Prime Minister has defended, pointing that some protesters overseas are met with bullets. MP Brad Batten has resigned from Shadow Ministry, and Tasmania's harness racer is fighting the sports governing body after being fined for refusing to race with a whip. And details of the inquiry into workplace culture at Parliament House yet to be finalised, the day after tens of thousands of people across the country rallied against the abuse and harassment of women. The mechanics of an inquiry into the culture of Parliament House are still being finalised. Liberal MP Nicole Flint says the safety of women should be above politics. Liberal MP Nicole Flint addressed House of Representatives and the Prime Minister Scott Morrison defends his comments on March for Justice rallies. The Prime Minister has been criticised over the comments made during the question time on Monday, saying it was a triumph that protested outside Parliament House were not met with bullets. It came after Prime Minister said some protesters were met with bullets in neighbouring countries when discussing women's marches across Australia. Gladys Berejiklian confirms new case at Sydney Hotel. New South Wales Premier says a person is currently quarantined on 11th floor of Sofitel Wentworth Hotel. Dr. Norman Swan says issues surrounding AstraZeneca vaccine are complicated. Several countries in Europe have suspended the use of AstraZeneca vaccine due to concerns of blood clots. But Dr. Norman Swan says it's unclear whether the issue is linked with the vaccine. AstraZeneca rollout soon be suspended, experts say. AstraZeneca rollout will not be put on hold as the country's top experts remain confident the vaccine is safe. It comes after several countries in Europe suspended the vaccine amid several cases of blood clots in people who have had the jab. But the data shows those cases aren't out of ordinary and further investigations need to be established to link. Australia's Chief Medical Officer addressed blood clot concerns about AstraZeneca vaccine. And Professor Paul Kelly said he remains confident that the AstraZeneca vaccine, despite concerns of blood clotting. So Australian authorities say there's no evidence that AstraZeneca causes blood clots. More European nations have paused their programs, but the federal chief medical officer says they are not concerned. Well, up to a third of the people take longer to recover from COVID, while most people recover from coronavirus. New data shows up to a third can suffer lingering symptoms lasting for months. It is called long COVID, and medical experts are struggling to understand and treat the condition. This can't be about politics anymore, says Liberal MP Nicole Flint as he addresses the House of Representatives. Patrick Dobson addresses Australia's death in custody, and Shadow Assistant Minister for Reconciliation Patrick Dobson spoke with the ABC briefing about Australia's death in custody. Australia is facing a nationwide swimming teacher shortage. Swimming Australia says there's a shortfall of at least 2,000 teachers, and demand has never been higher. Now to finance. On the anniversary of a huge slump, the stock market is rallying, and soaring house prices increase lending risk as RBA pledges to keep interest rate low. Leading economist Warren Haugen expects lending rules to be used to cool halt housing market. Record-breaking market frenzy will come to an abrupt halt once a year-old Australia suffered the worst lockdown since the Great Depression, and the ASX 200 experienced its worst crash in 1987. Some investors made a lot of money, but experts warn a correction would be around the corner. And now to world news. Matthias Cormann speaks about his new position as Secretary General of the OECD. Australia's former Finance Minister Matthias Cormann has now a powerful new international role as the Secretary General of the Organisation for Economic Cooperation and Development. Leading US economist Gail Fosler speaks about the US stimulus package, the benefits to Australia from President Biden's US $1.9 trillion stimulus package. Growing anger over UK police response to Sarah Everhard's vigil in UK London is reeling and horrendous murder of a young woman as she walked home through a popular park. As in Australia, it has sparked a major discussion in UK about women's rights and their lives and the safety. And New Zealand, troubled waters. New Zealand's green, clean image hides a dirty truth. Polluted by intense dairy farming, its waterways are somewhat degraded in the world. Would the Ardern government clean it up, or will the Maori take control of that? So these are some of the news and the news in brief for today. Well, right now, let's join our Prime Minister with his live update for today. And remember, this live stream is brought to you by Chantex Multimedia, and it is an Australian Indian radio production.
Well, good morning, everyone. I'm joined by Minister Payne and Minister Seselja, the Minister for the Pacific, of course, joined by the Chief Medical Officer, Professor Kelly. And I just, in advance, I don't have leave for the Parliament this morning, so if the bells ring, then you'll, of course, excuse me if I have to depart. Throughout the course of the COVID-19 pandemic, we have always been extremely concerned for our Pacific family, for our neighbours. And over the course of this last year, the Pacific community has done such an extraordinary job to substantively keep their islands free of COVID-19, but we've known that that challenge was always going to be too great for Papua New Guinea as time went on, and that indeed is proving to be the case now. I've been in contact with Prime Minister Marape very consistently over the course of the COVID-19 pandemic, and particularly in recent days. And the events that we're seeing there are of great concern for them and the challenges that they now face. But I want to assure the people of Papua New Guinea and my dear friend James Marape that Australia as always will stand with them as they meet this challenge and support them in every way that we possibly can. Now, it is also true that the escalation of issues with the virus in Papua New Guinea presents very real risks to Australia as well. This is a matter that we've been regularly addressing at National Cabinet, and particularly between Premier Palaszczuk and I, as we've been very conscious of the risks that are present there. That has included, on medical advice as well as advice from the Australian Border Force, increasing our activities in the Torres Strait. It has also included moving forward through the Queensland Department of Health to already commence vaccinations in the Torres Strait Island to ensure that we're boosting the protection for that very vulnerable part of Australia and the impact on Northern Australia. We've already taken action to ensure that there is pre-departure testing of people coming out of Papua New Guinea into Australia at 96 hours. And in addition to that, we recently suspended charter flights out of the Oktedi mine, where there has been a high incidence of those working in that mine testing positive. But we now need to do more, and we will do more. On the basis of the medical advice, on the basis of discussions I've had with Prime Minister Marape over the last few days and with the Premier of Queensland, we are taking the following actions to support the initiatives in Papua New Guinea and also to protect Australians from the spread of the virus from Papua New Guinea to Australia, and in particular protect Queenslanders. Queenslanders, particularly in North Queensland, are most at risk from this. We've been very conscious of that, and these measures are designed very much with them in mind. Starting at midnight tonight, we will further reduce the risk of COVID-19 transmission from PNG to Australia by suspending passenger flights from Papua New Guinea into Cairns. We will do that for a fortnight and reassess the situation over the next fortnight. Freight, though, I stress, will continue and will be supported to ensure that necessary supplies are able to get from Cairns to Papua New Guinea. We'll be suspending all charter flights from Papua New Guinea to Australia with limited exemptions for Medivac and other critical flights. We will be reducing the passenger caps by 1/4 from flights from Port Moresby to Brisbane effective at midnight tonight. We will be suspending all outbound travel exemptions by Australians to Papua New Guinea except for essential and critical workers, including humanitarian and Medivac-related activity. This will include no general FIFO workers. You FI or you FO. If you're there, you stay. If you're here, you stay. We cannot risk more people going into those areas and then coming back to Australia. We will work with PNG also over the course of the next fortnight and move as quickly as we can to move from a 96-hour pre-departure screening to a 24-hour pre-departure screening. We will also be beefing up the medical support we're providing by gifting essential PPE to PNG. That includes 1 million surgical masks, 200,000 P295 respirator masks, 100,000 gowns, 100,000 goggles, 100,000 pairs of gloves, 100,000 bottles of sanitizer, 20,000 face shields and 200 non-invasive ventilators. Our government will also be moving immediately to gift 8,000 doses of our COVID-19 vaccine stocks from our domestic stocks to support the vaccination of frontline health workers in PNG from next week. With the support of the PNG government, we are also making a formal request to AstraZeneca and the European authorities to access 1 million doses of our contracted supplies of AstraZeneca, not for Australia, but for PNG, a developing country in desperate need of these vaccines. We've contracted them, we've paid for them, and we want to see those vaccines come here so we can support our nearest neighbour PNG deal with their urgent needs in our region. And we'll be seeking the support of the European Union and AstraZeneca to achieve that as soon as possible. With the agreement of PNG government, we are deploying a critical planning AUSMAT team to PNG next week to establish and prepare plans for COVID healthcare needs in PNG and set the ground for a further deployment of a clinical care team in coming weeks. We will also be seeking the assistance, pursuant to the Quad meeting we had last weekend, from our Quad partners to provide assistance, technical and otherwise, with the rollout of this program.
The Prime Minister mentioned about the Quad, and of course we know that India is playing a key role in that as well. Well, right now let's hear from our Chief Medical Officer about the AstraZeneca vaccine.
I can absolutely say that I remain confident in the AstraZeneca vaccine, that it's safe, and that there is at this point no evidence that it causes blood clots. Today we asked our expert committee, the Australian Technical Advisory Committee on Immunisation, the ATAGI group, Australia's best experts on vaccination and side effects related to vaccination, to meet and to look at the evidence as it is currently stated. And I'll quote from their statement that they've put out today. So, based on the evidence to date, ATAGI do not see any reason to pause the use of the AstraZeneca vaccine in Australia.
It's time now for Real Estate Update. With Usha Chandra of GlobeNet Realty, real estate is our world.
Now we're standing here face to face, afraid to move or else.
So, ladies and gentlemen, once again, it is that segment where we talk real estate and looking at all the market trends. Of course, this is brought to you by GlobeNet Realty. And with that, let's welcome to the show Usha.
Thank you for having me on the show, Mish.
Thank you very much for bringing all the updates that you do every week. So, first of all, if you could give us an overview of what's happening in the market.
The overview, actually, consumer confidence has increased a lot. As we have seen a lot of homes and businesses are improving as property market is improving as well. There's a lot of confidence in the marketplace. The COVID numbers have decreased now, and we are really seeing the success of our vaccination program, which is excellent. Shows that there's not that much COVID in Queensland or in Australia. Actually, our economy is improving faster than many of us had expected. The people were talking about doom and gloom, but our economy is growing very strong, and I think 2021 and 2022 will be a very strong year. As we can see that auction results, the clearance rates is remaining consistently higher, and we have seen a lot of auctions in capital cities, Melbourne and Sydney, and also around Australia, that there's a lot of properties coming on the market and with selling under the hammer as well. A lot of auctions are selling around Australia, and it shows the confidence level is pretty good in property market. While more buyers and sellers are in the marketplace, transaction numbers have increased a lot. And with a lack of good quality properties, the buyers are really, competing with their offers. There's a lot of, there's limited properties on the market for sale, and while we are seeing buyers have got very limited choice in selecting which sort of properties they are going to make an offer on, we are hoping that more A-grade properties and homes are coming on the market soon, as we have got stacks of buyers waiting. Last weekend we had listed only about 2-3 new properties, and out of the 3 new properties we had about 4 open houses on Saturday, and we had about 60 plus buyers came to one of our properties. About 29 buyers came to the second property, about 32 buyers came on the third property, and about 7 or 8 buyers came to the other property. So it shows there's lot of buyers in the marketplace. And one property I just listed on Friday, and I had 9 offers on that property. The listing price, we have got about $30,000 more than the listing price. Another one, I've got $38,000 more than the listed price, and one I couldn't imagine. We were thinking that the property will sell around $550 or something, and it has sold over $600,000. So that shows that there is a lot of demand for properties, and anybody is thinking of selling, please contact us, as we have got multiple buyers registered on our database.
And that is so good to see that confidence in the market, and as you talked about, the consumer confidence, looking at the consumers and the business confidence as well, because it goes hand in hand. You could be very confident in running a business, but unless you have consumers have confidence, and then it doesn't work. So that was quite a good opening, I thought you did there. And of course, looking at the numbers and the number of properties being sold, as you mentioned before, and you talked about auctions, because auctions are a very good indicator of what's happening out in the market. So what is happening out there in the market in terms of auctions? What are the results?
The results for the capital cities auction in Sydney was very high. In Sydney, the market was the total auctions was 817, and 87% was clearance rate. Whereas Melbourne was 1,094 auctions, 80% was the clearance rate. Brisbane was 110 auctions, and 65% was the clearance rate. And Adelaide was 101 auctions, and the clearance was 87.9%. Perth, there was only 17 auctions, so it's not applicable there. And Tasmania the same, only one auction. And Canberra was 92 auctions, and 95% was the success rate. So that shows there's a lot of confidence in the buyers, and the properties are selling. A lot more properties are selling under the hammer, and as you can see from the graph, the percentage is quite high.
And that is, and of course, so looking at the prices, of course, looking at what people have been getting, so those clearance rates are pretty good, and over 2,200 auctions there. That is amazing. So looking at the home values, how have they done price-wise? Has there been any change, any movement?
It has changed a little bit. In weekly change is only 1% in Sydney. Melbourne was 0.5%, and the Brisbane market was 0.6% weekly change. Adelaide was 0.3%, and Perth was 0.5%. So compared to the monthly change, the weekly change was only 1.1%, whereas the monthly change was 3.9% in Sydney, and Melbourne was minus 0.8% on a 12-month change. Weekly change in Brisbane was 0.6%, and 5.6% was a 12-month change. Adelaide was 0.3%, and 7.6% was the yearly change. And Perth was 0.5%, and whereas 5.5% was the yearly change. So the combined total 5 capital cities, the 0.8% was the weekly change, and 3.1% was the yearly change.
And that's a very strong yearly change if you look at that, 3.1%. Of course, the highest is Adelaide, which has 7.6%, which is amazing. But the average comes down when we look at Melbourne, which is in the minus 0.8. But even though it is in minus, and that that's the trend which we have been following for the last couple of weeks, and that is a pretty good indicator of what's actually happening out there. So right now, of course, so when we were talking about, when in your opening remarks as well, you mentioned about the number of properties coming on the market, and is less than the number of buyers that are willing to buy those properties. So what have been the numbers looking at the capital cities of the new listings?
The new listings, Sydney has 7,496 new listings. Melbourne has 8,459 new listings. Brisbane was 4,510. Adelaide was 1,831. Perth was quite high actually, 4,349 new listings compared to the last graph we saw last week. Hobart was 331 new listings, Darwin is 137, and Canberra was 647 new listings come on the market just last week.
So once again, looking at those numbers, it is amazing, but the total number of listings also is quite interesting.
Yeah.
The new listings that have come on the market is 27,760 in this all combined capitals, which brings the total listings. These are the new ones. So the total listings on the market at the moment for all the salespeople of Australia is 83,828. So, but it is again in the 12 month, if you look at the 12 month, is minus 18.8%. So, overall, there's less number of listings as compared to the 12-month change. So, but again, there's quite a large number.
Yes, it is.
Okay, so prices wise and private treaty sales. So what has been the results there?
It's pretty good private treaty sales. Sydney was number of sales was 1,856 new sales, and the median price was 881,750. So the Sydney price has gone a little bit down. Melbourne was 1,862 new number of sales, and 719,000 was the average price. That has gone down a little bit as well. Brisbane is 1,153 number of sales, and 525,000 is the average price. Brisbane price has been pretty steady for the last couple of months. Adelaide is 675 number of sales, and the 490 is the average price. Perth is 1,073 and average price is 485,000, and Hobart is 168 new number of sales, and 610 is their average price. Darwin is 38 sales and 530,000 is the average price. Canberra is 78 sales only, quite low number there, but their price has increased from last week. It's gone to 782,000, whereas was 777 last week. So the number capitals combined cities was 6,903 number of sales, and average price, median price is 668,611. Compared to the unit in townhouse apartment markets, a number of sales was in Sydney was 1,231, and 650 is the average price. That's pretty steady there. And 925 number of sales in apartments in Melbourne. 560 is their average price. The price has gone by $10,000 in Melbourne compared to the last one we have seen. Brisbane is 357 apartments sold, and 400 price is pretty constant there. Adelaide was 241, and average price is 340. Perth was 335, and their average price remains quite constant as well. And Hobart was only 36 sales, 488,500. Their market has gone, last thing was 490. Now it's gone a little bit down last week. Darwin was 17, and 350 was the average price. It's pretty constant there. Canberra is 139, and 490 is the average median price. So compared to the houses, it's always half the apartments and townhouses. 6,900 in house sales, whereas the units and apartments were 3,281. And compared to the capital combined cities, median price in houses was 668,000, whereas in units and apartments is 541,000.
And that is really not too bad when you look at that 668 as for medium house prices, and compared to the medium unit prices 541. So yeah, the number of sales, of course, is half, almost half there, as you rightfully mentioned. Well, that's something very good to look at. Now, of course, in this market, when you have mentioned before that, there's more buyers than so, properties might not be staying on the market for too long. So what is the happening in that area, number of days on the market?
In our area, most of the properties are on the market for only few days. Like as I said, on Friday I listed this property and sold it basically with multiple offers. On Saturday I had multiple offers, and I closed the deal yesterday, which was I had presented all the offers to the sellers, and they decided which one is the best offer for them. Looking at the conditions, and it's not necessarily the highest price will buy the property, it's the conditions as well. So looking at Sydney time on the market, compared to Sydney market, the average properties are on the market for 25 days, and in Melbourne is 31 days, Brisbane is 41 days, which is very hard to believe unless they are very overpriced properties. Adelaide is 31 days, Perth is 42 days, and Hobart is 26 days, Darwin is 40 days, and Canberra is 41 days. I think they are already very high. I mean, it's been on the market for longer than what people are facing these days. Most of the properties are selling within our area on the north side of Brisbane. They're selling fairly quickly. And if you compare that units, it's the similar number of days. I mean, 34 days and 41 days in Melbourne. 57 days is more longer. I mean, the townhouses and units are staying on the market for longer period than compared to the houses. As most of the people will prefer the houses. We can seen it from the graph that apartments and unit numbers are 50% lower than housing markets. More people are looking at to buy houses that prefer the block of land, and so that shows the record what the market is doing in our general area.
And that's those time on the market when you look at those medium numbers that they have put down there. Of course, every area is slightly different, so that averages. Of course, when you have a very flamboyant market and there's other areas which might be pulling it down, so that's why they would have worked out the medium of the time on market. Well, right now, moving on in the last segment, in conclusion, looking at your agency and your area, anything specific that you'd like to mention, House of the Week or open houses, what's coming up, what's happening in your area and specifically with your agency?
Yeah, we have got only 2 properties to sell actually. We have sold most of our properties. We have got one new listing that has come up yesterday. The House of the Week actually is a very good house on the peninsula in Redcliffe. It's walking distance to the beach, shopping centres. It's a 4-bedroom house, currently rented for $500 a week, and it's a great investment. Low set brick, 4 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, 2 cars, and walking distance to all amenities. And that has been, the owner is thinking of offloading that property now. So if anybody is thinking of buying an excellent investment, this is the property at 24A Josephine Street on the peninsula in Redcliffe.
So once again, thank you very much for coming on the show, and good to see a lot of action still happening in the market and very busy still. And of course, the other part of the equation is, very briefly, if you could touch on what's happening in the rental scene.
Rentals is extremely good. I mean, we have just got one more new listings which has got multiple applications. We got it only late last week, and we have got multiple applications on that. We are extremely shortage of rental properties as well. We have got a number of registered tenants on our database, is similar to our registered database buyers on our database in sales as well. So we are extremely shortage of rental properties. Is we are looking for more rental properties, as we have got people who are competing on properties, paying offering about $20 to $50 more to get a house. So there's a lot of tenants, owners are selling properties, rental properties, where the tenants can't find any other properties to move to. So extremely high demand of rental properties in our area.
So if with that kind of demand, it would be a good time for investors to invest in rental properties. But once again, if market forces are forcing the prices high as well, so it might not be. That might be chasing people away at this point in time as well. So once again, thank you so much for being on the show and sharing all those things. Is there anything else you'd like to add in conclusion?
No, thank you so much for having me on the show. It's great to be back again.
Thank you very much. We'll see you next week.
GlobeNet Realty. GlobeNet Realty has been the longest established, trusted and respected agency in its trade area. Usha Chandra, Director of GlobeNet Realty, provides honest and ethical service to her customers. If you are thinking of investing in Brisbane real estate market, or if you are seeking professional property management, then you should contact Usha Chandra today on landline 3865 4466 or mobile 0419 775 416. And for further updates, log on to our website www.globenetralty.com.au. GlobeNet Realty is your own local real estate agency. Situated at Shop 52281 Sandgate Road, Boondall. GlobeNet Realty. Real estate is our world.
So, ladies and gentlemen, that's been that special segment with GlobeNet Realty and the weekly real estate update with a lot of information on that. Well, ladies and gentlemen, right now it's time to look at some of the functions and events taking place right here in Brisbane. And ladies and gentlemen, once again, it's been wonderful having your company. And thank you so much for being with us. And that was the real estate update as a feature for today. And don't forget that tomorrow we will have the travel updates with Tanvi Goyal of Oz India Travels with all the updates of what's happening. As we know, Queensland government has provided some incentives, and there are many other incentives, but also with those incentives comes rules and regulations, and all those updates will be brought to you by Tanvi Goyal of Oz India Travel, and that's coming tomorrow. Well, it's been wonderful having your company. It's always so good to see you. It's nice to have your company, and for sharing our feed with other members of the society as well. So and I'd like to place on record my sincere appreciation for many of the admins of many groups, admins of the groups who saw responsibility that this is an information which is important to the community, and they share that amongst their group, or they allow our feed to be shared on the group. Of course, only people who want to watch it will watch it, even though if it's on your feed. It doesn't mean that it's been put on the group that, of course, all of a sudden, hey, why are you putting on the group every day? If it is there, your members might want to watch it, and they will. And those who don't will not. So, it's not offensive, and it's not, hard sell. So, it is something of community interest, many things which are happening in the communities. And if you would like to be on the show, we'd love to have you on the show. If you have something to talk about, we would love to hear from you. Please send us a message via the comment section, and we'd love to get you on the show. So until tomorrow, it's goodbye from me. As I said before, it's so good to see you. Wonderful to have your company. Enjoy the rest of the day. And it's wet out there, so please do take care while driving. And of course, if you're going out or in any place, don't forget that COVID is just around the corner. It hasn't gone. So, please do take those precautions.